what's your read on this? I mean, are we just going to be subjected to this volatility for the long term, or is this a matter of some comments that were made by Elon Musk and the People's Bank of China just coming together at once and having a sort of explosive impact?
Yeah, the volatility seems to be an endemic feature of the asset class, frankly. When you look at Bitcoin, it has a capped supply, so you don't have this moderation of supply in response to demand. So you are always going to get that volatility with Bitcoin. With the remainder of the asset class, people are discounting technological innovation, future adoption trends out into the future, and that is reflected in the price today. And those expectations are extremely volatile and mercurial. So we don't have stable models to value the bulk of these crypto assets. And so the volatility is a feature of that rapid revaluation of sort of future adoption trends. With Elon, it's certainly been a wild ride. Ostensibly he's been on Team Bitcoin, but then of course coming out and saying things that are very critical. And so, I think people, are really spooked by that. And that's certainly part of the reason the market has the jitters, but certainly not the sole reason.
So, Nick, there are certain permanent aspects of crypto, of Bitcoin and the cycle. The volatility is here to stay, doesn't seem to be going away. Another phenomenon seems to be that as the price goes up a lot, suddenly the industry starts creating and shilling various altcoins and saying, like Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, like Ethereum, buy Ripple, like buy Ripple, buy Dogecoin. How much does that natural effect, this sort of like impulse on the part of people in the space to offer up a new coin a day for people to sell, sort of have the effect, in your view, of eventually sort of sapping price momentum overall?
Yeah, that's a very astute point, Joe. I very much agree that supply response that comes, it's extrinsic to Bitcoin. We see the creation of duplicates and alternatives and competitors the same way that you can imagine, Nikola stock absorbed some of the demand for Tesla, for instance.
Yeah.
That's totally a feature of the asset class. It's definitely one of the ironies that, of course, Bitcoin's supply is perfectly inelastic, but the supply of sort of Bitcoin substitutes is not. And I expect that to always be the case. I mean, in this stage of sort of the economic cycle, there's always going to be entrepreneurs creating alternatives, catering to that market for new, sort of Bitcoin alternatives and things like that. So that's always been the case in the industry since around 2011, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
So, Nick, what factors do you expect to see driving either the next rally or the next slide? Because, we're still waiting for the Biden administration to make some decisions about how it's going to regulate cryptocurrency, and we don't know what direction they're going to take. That's right.
I think administrative regulatory factors are actually really key here and potentially underappreciated in the markets. We're already hearing rumblings from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency that they are potentially revisiting some of those favorable rulings that Brian Brooks put in place with regards to banks being able to custody crypto. It's possible we get a new comptroller that is much more hostile to the industry and unwind some of those favorable moves. I think the SEC has the potential to be much more activist and much more direct in its engagement. A lot of crypto folks hope and expect that the SEC will be very accommodating, but there's no guarantee that that will be the case. Certainly there's, just as many tokens as there were in 2017, just as many new issuances of, some potentially questionable tokens, frankly. I expect the Gensler SEC to have a view on that. And so those regulatory, moves might well pose headwinds here. At the end of the day, I think the key megatrend here is, of course, the macroeconomic environment, whether we get whether inflation is just transitory or if it is more sustained, whether we get things like yield curve control, right, and monetary repression here.
Nick, real quickly, we just have a second. Is that a clock showing the Russian time zone on your shelf behind you?
That's a deep inside joke on Bitcoin Twitter, Joe. But yes, that clock does show the price of Bitcoin. Of course, not looking too good today.
Got it.
But Nick, you got to tell us the inside joke for those who don't get it.
Let me see. I don't know if I have enough time to go into depth. When Jack Dorsey appeared in front of Congress, he had the price of Bitcoin, the price of Satoshis on a block clock like this behind him. And a lot of people thought that that was showing the Russian time, but actually it was just showing the price of Satoshis.